Our next panel is Emotional Intelligence in a Digitally Advancing World, Navigating Change for Entrepreneurs and Professionals. Our moderator is Deborah Sawaf. She is a renowned fashion designer and visionary leader. She's the founder of The Power of Words, a purpose-driven fashion brand breaking mental health stigmas, and she was nominated as the first socially sustainable brand by the UN. With experience working alongside John Galliano, Valentino, and Roberto Cavalli, she has solidified her status as a global fashion icon. Beyond fashion, she's a dedicated philanthropist honored as a true altruist by Angelino Magazine and actively supports women's empowerment worldwide. Deborah pivoted her 28-year career in high fashion to dedicate her life to creating change in mental health through teaching emotional intelligence. Deborah Sawaf.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, first of all, to Owana Tucker, who's made this possible, made this event possible. And if we want to talk about emotional intelligence, I think we need an entire day because it appeals and relates to every one of us, no matter what age or what field we're in. I have a beautiful panel today, a very diverse panel, but more importantly, someone that I admire that has done so much work in the world of mental health. Dr. Jonathan Sharon was able to give us a few minutes of his time, and he said he will speak for only 3 minutes, so forgive us if we run over. It is an honor for me to have Dr. Jonathan Sharon, the former director of LA County's Mental Health Department and a Power of Words advisor. Thank you for that. To introduce the topic of emotional intelligence in a rapidly evolving world of technology and the dire need for change in how we approach health and mental well-being. His dedication to advance holistic, I'm sorry, I need to change my glasses. His dedication to advancing holistic, community-driven solutions aligns seamlessly with the mission of the Power of Words Foundation. His heart-forward approach to systems transformation and policy reform resonates with our DNA. He dedicates years of experience as a psychiatrist and neuroscientist. He is a nationally recognized mental health leader who advocates tirelessly for the importance of lived experience in directing the field. Grassroots must drive the grass tops. I love that phrase. And the need for everyone on the planet to have the 3 Ps of people, place, and purpose to flourish in life. I'm so grateful to have Jonathan here today, a friend and just an amazing advocate for, I want to say mental health, but emotional intelligence, to say a few words before we begin.
Thank you very much, Deborah. And wow, that was great. The bowls are still resonating. I will try to keep it to 3 minutes. My whole career I've kind of devoted to taking care of the most vulnerable in our communities. Lots of work with individuals that have profound chronic mental illness and are languishing in our streets and in our jails and in and out of hospitals. And a part of my work has always focused on the human aspect, which is why I believe so strongly in lived experience as a tool for change. But in doing that and in running the Department of Mental Health for this very large jurisdiction, the need for all people to have emotional support couldn't be more compelling. We've had so many things ripping us apart as a society, at the community level, at our families, and particularly for our young generation. And things like the internet, things like the information crisis, where we don't know what things mean, cyberbullying. So many things are going on that are really challenging and lifting up the need for emotional support. Well, emotional intelligence is critical in order to push that movement, both in terms of becoming emotionally intelligent as a person, being able to provide emotional support to others, and to develop narratives that are strong and that can endure in the context of multiple traumas. I met Deb. I'm a big believer in the power of words. I got on my bracelets. I'm going to recommend that y'all get a bag and pick your 1, 2, or 3 and help move towards a society where emotional intelligence is not just important, but it's a focus, and that we support it and we promote it. And things like what Deb is pushing begin to be a part of the DNA of our communities. Thank you very, very much.
Well, after the beautiful sound bowl, Oana asked me to ask all of you to stand up and shake out a little bit because it was so beautiful and got us so relaxed. And we need to get our brains thinking about emotional intelligence, but stay standing for a couple of seconds. Thank you. Now, anybody that hasn't been impacted or knows someone, or anyone that hasn't been impacted or knows somebody in their community that has had a mental health crisis, please sit down. Anyone that hasn't had that moment where you've gone through your ups and downs and never had this movement of emotion where you think you're losing control and you're going absolutely insane and you felt like you had no way out and it was just this deep, dark hole. If you haven't felt that ever, please sit down. Anyone who hasn't seen a child struggle, whether teenage or young adult, especially today, and talk about it, or not talk about it even more so, please sit down. Well, thank you everyone. You can sit down now. So this is a real crisis. What we're going through in mental health is a serious topic, and I'm really grateful that Oana gave me this opportunity to actually to have a panel that will talk about mental health. And I'm honored to be bringing together an incredible panel of individuals from very diverse fields. And this is really for them to be able to share what they've done, their successes, failures that we learn from, but also how has emotional intelligence that we don't realize as emotional intelligence because we just go through life and then use tools, but there are tools that can really help us through these moments. There are tools that if we think about it on a day-to-day basis, we will not go to that up and down crisis. And that is what I do, and that is why I've pivoted my career in fashion, because fashion has a voice. Fashion has the power to make change. It has the power to talk to absolutely anybody. The CEO of Facebook and a little child on the streets in India. Fashion communicates with everybody in a beautiful way. So we use fashion, technology, art, sport to be able to create this change. I'm going to give a very short intro because I would like my panelists to also introduce themselves. Paul J. Foster, the CEO of the Global Esports Federation and World Technology Games, operates in a dynamic world where emotional intelligence is the foundation of teamwork, resilience, and global collaboration. Paul takes pride in fostering these values throughout his career, making his vision deeply aligned with the Power of Words Foundation. Together, we are committed to creating a lasting impact by championing emotional intelligence as an essential skill for leadership and connection, and leadership applies to every one of you in this room, and it is the best tool for leadership. Dawn Regan, the interim head of Marymount High School, sees firsthand how emotional intelligence impacts education, student success, and the next generation of leaders. And Dawn is the vehicle for the next generation of leaders. Tina Dorisu, a real estate expert, single mother, embodies the reality of juggling profession, ambition with personal responsibilities, especially through the challenges of the pandemic with teenage children, raising teenage children. And Samira Salman, who's made a trip here from Texas, thank you, Samira, is a powerhouse in wealth management, she pivoted from finance and law to wealth management and understands the role of emotions play in financial decision-making, leadership, and navigating the high-stakes relationships. Thank you, everybody, for being here. But I want to say thank you to Her Excellency Lucia Sava. I didn't see you there. I apologize. But thank you for putting this together with Oana, and I appreciate you. And thank you for your leadership. Dawn, because you're on the end, I'll start with you and give you a minute to introduce yourself before we go into questions.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellence, for having us here and for providing this opportunity to bring very strong and powerful women together to talk about leadership and what it is to lead in this day and age. I feel like I'm at home. This is what we do all the time at Marymount. For those of you that don't know, I am fortunate and grateful to lead a community of young women, grades 9 through 12, all-girls school, in a mission-driven institution that empowers all students to take up space and to have a voice. I've been fortunate enough to be with Marymount almost 13 years now, and to build an incredible leadership team around me that reflects those within our student community. And so on a daily basis, our girls are seeing women lead women. So thank you, Deborah, for putting this panel together and including me.
It's on. Thank you. Always sit next to someone in education to help you how to use a microphone. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's lovely to be here. Deborah, thank you for having me here. It's a great honour to be with this distinguished group. My name's Paul Foster. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and what the incredible champion Andrea Raducan achieved for young girls and young boys, and the Romanian team did in Sydney, Australia. In my city, I was there on the 21st of September 2000 when you won your gold. And will never be forgotten. And I worked for the Olympic movement for 20 years. My first games was my home games. So for everyone that lives in Los Angeles, congratulations on what you're about to see. And for 20 years I worked in the Olympic movement, and then I got a phone call to say, what about esports and gaming? And that was in 2018. And 2019 in Singapore, we launched the Global Esports Federation to bring everything from the Olympic movement to help young people particularly, but also to help shape the industry in a responsible, sustainable, reasonable and active way, and to make space for women and to make space for young boys to thrive in this incredible digital community. And that led me to World Technology. So I just created an organization called World Technology, which talks about celebrating human ingenuity to create space for young women and young men who aspire to enter science, technology and innovation, where we don't have role models like Andrea, and in sport and in Hollywood and in movies, but we don't have those role models. So if we can have role models, we can do that. And so I'm just thrilled to be here and share some of that experience with you and how important it is for our community to be here and represented.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Duraso. Thank you, Deborah, for having me. I apologize. I'm a little hoarse, so please forgive me. I'm a global advisor. I work at Douglas Elliman in Beverly Hills. I'm also a lead chapter organizer for Harvard Business School Online. My journey actually started blended a little differently. I've done many different things throughout. I worked for the federal government for over 10 years, which led me to working for the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. In between that time, I started my own company called Unique Styles, which actually led me to working with many NFL players and celebrity entertainers. I was able to foster a partnership with a major company, and that led to my journey of getting into the sports and entertainment division. With doing that, within maybe 10 years in, coming over to California, I was faced with a little difficulty that I wasn't expecting in my personal life, and that led me into real estate. When I say led me, I mean led me, actually kind of drugged me. I did not want to be in real estate, and I never wanted a sales position. But with that being said, I actually tried to gather up my thoughts and using emotional intelligence to bring everything together and what I was going through and facing and connecting all the dots. So that's how I got to Douglas Elliman in the sports and entertainment business, and that's how I took my relationships that I had, the people that I met a really powerful and interesting young lady in Beverly Hills who actually got me into the real estate business, which I landed my first job right by the iconic Beverly Hills Hotel, working on a real estate project. So, and here I am today.
Hi there, my name's Samira Salman. First of all, a big thank you to Owana for finding me on the internet and calling me out of the blue. I'm so happy I said yes. Thank you to Deborah for putting together a beautiful panel, and thank you to all of you. This has been a real treat for me to be involved in this. So I, similar to many of you, do multiple things. I wear multiple hats. I run a single-family investment office with a grandson. I also founded and run a group called Collaboration Circle. We're 125 globally significant families, and we engage in 3 things together: thought leadership and learning, community building and Superfund gatherings, and obviously we invest together. My background is I was a corporate tax M&A structuring lawyer. I started my career at Arthur Andersen in Houston. Some of you may have heard of it or studied it in school. And I ended my career as a lawyer by being in-house counsel at Shell Oil Company. And I was also the vice chair of the American Bar Association Energy and Environmental Taxes Committee. So I used to write tax law with Congress. I stepped away, now it's been many years, close to 20, to pursue private investments and building private companies. I fundamentally believe that private capital is what will change the world. And I believe that I have a responsibility to gather some of the most influential, financially available families to invest in some of the groundbreaking technologies that people are coming up with. And part of my mission is to move more money to women and people of color. I could sit here and talk a long time about all those things, but the thing that I think is most important is our private finance world is a little bit broken. It's very transactional. However, as humans, we're not transactional. And so Deborah and I connected very quickly it was one Zoom where I wished I could have reached through the computer and hugged her because she gets it. And I've been working painstakingly to build this group and this community to show that you can be in community and gathering with other people and families and professionals and also make lucrative investments. It doesn't have to be win-lose, only transactional. We can connect as humans and collaborate and build community. So thank you for having me.
Well, wonderful to have all of you here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time, and Paul, the long drive to be here. Thank you for getting out of school for us today, and thank you for letting go of your business time to be with us. It's really, I like to start. The reason I picked a diverse panel is because I wanted to talk about where this begins and where it ends, and really there is no beginning and ending for emotional intelligence, but we need to do something about it, and it starts with you, Dawn. And because you have in your hands the leaders of the future, you have in your hands the ability to raise them and give them the tools that they need. What do you think are the most pressing mental health challenges that the young generation is facing today?
That's a great question and a very large question. And I think post-COVID and what we're dealing with in Los Angeles right now, post-fire, it's a very real environment of social anxiety, depression, loneliness. Our students are reporting to us right now in real-time data that they've never felt more lonely than they have in before this post-fire. Yes, so we're now in a new endemic in a way. I mean, we went through COVID where we saw the rise in loneliness, and we thought we started to come out of it. And through that, we started to build at Marymount specifically EI curriculum to really help address what we saw coming out of COVID. And here we are again. And that loneliness, who has a phone on them right now? Everybody just raise their phone up. The loneliness comes from that. And it's self-reported that I can, at any given time in my day, walk outside and see students gathered around a table, whether they are studying or socializing, but everybody is like this. So how do we combat that in our younger, our age groups right now? And as adults in the room, it's up to us to help set those boundaries and model what it looks like to be a leader in emotional intelligence. So that is something that is definitely pressing my community. I think the greater Los Angeles community, I feel like everybody is from all different parts right now and is shaking their head because they know this all too well, that loneliness is on the rise. What was that second half of that question? I kind of blanked out for a second.
The second half of the question is more around, do you think that, we do have theory. So everyone went into social emotional learning.
Right.
The theory exists, and we can go, and you can put a kid and teach them whatever you want in school or at home, and they go back, do their tests or get their scores and move on.
Right.
But there is no practical connection. Do you think that is necessary? And
it's not only necessary, it's essential as we move forward in this world, because studies show right now, I think the World Economic study just came out, that emotional intelligence is a great indicator of success, more so or equal to IQ. Yeah. And now we are working with students that the resiliency level has plummeted, and they don't know how to figure out how to do something. And so now, and everybody's like,
Yeah.
And we have moved away as parents and adults in this world. We want to swoop in and save our children from ever hurting or ever feeling like they have failed. But without that, raise your hand if you've ever failed in this room.
A lot. Too many times.
All the time. And because of that failure, we have learned how to come out better than what we went in as. And right now our students are not having that ability because the parents and the adults in the room are trying to save them. And the number one, what I urge all of my families, and these are parent educations that we run, let them fail. Let's redefine success. The children will be okay.
It's also giving them the tools to be able to express themselves, and we'll get into that in a bit. But Andrea, talking about Andrea, I often say that if you're trying to hire a CEO, you will get the best CEO in an athlete, because they face resilience. They know how to pick themselves up every time they fall down. So Andrea, when you were talking, that was one of the things. So anyone looking for a CEO, you have one sitting right here in the room. And an amazing CEO she will make. Focusing on leadership, resilience, emotional intelligence, and the future of esports. To kick off our discussion, Paul, I would like to pose this question that most lay people, women and parents, and it is such an important question, because all of us talk about gaming. all of us parents know our kids play the games, but we really don't pay attention to these games. So I'd like you to dive into what esports mean, because I think every woman needs to know what gaming is about. Some of us young, trendy women do, but I think I'd like to hear from Paul, and we can go into why EI is needed in esports.
Thank you, Deborah. I'll do my best. Playing games is very human. When I was younger, I used to chase my brothers and sisters around the front garden and at the beach and things like that, and it's playing games. And now we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and so it's no surprise to anyone that we play games through technology. So when we play a game, we're playing a game. And esports, it's an important word, and it's about to become very important for LA 28, because in Paris just 6 months ago, the International Olympic Committee approved the first time ever Olympic esports games. Now, we all know the game of golf. It took 121 years for golf to get onto the Olympic program. And it took 4 years for us to help get esports onto the Olympic program. Not only the Olympic program, but a brand new IP called Olympic Esports Games. The last time that happened was the Olympic Winter Games. 100 years ago. So if you don't think esports and gaming is important, you might like to think of it through the context of the Olympic movement. And as Andrea would agree, I think this started from not only zero, it started from absolutely no way, never, ever, ever, ever. This is not a sport. And I was recently in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and a journalist asked me, Paul, is it a sport? And I said, I have 2 answers for you. I'll start with the second one. Training, skill, duration, expertise, focus, nutrition, mental health, teamwork. I think it's a sport. And the second answer is, who cares? Who cares is more important, because I hope you might agree with me, esports and gaming, the definition of esports is really simple. If we play a game, we're playing a game. Esports is 4 words. Organized professional video games. So when we do it in an organized way competitively, that's called esports, and that's what the Olympics is going to be looking at, and that's what you'll see on the rise, these stadiums filled with people cheering for stuff that I don't understand what's going on the screen, so don't feel alone in that. That's important. And what's really, really important, I think, in all of that is the sense of it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, or if you're old. We talk about young people. It doesn't matter if you're older or young, or if you have a disability or if you don't. You can play. And something we've forgotten to talk about enough is fun. And I loved what you said before about redefining what success looks like. When did it have to just be about winning a gold medal or being on the top? When was it not good enough that we just participated and that we sought so much? And just one quick example of that. I always like to go to the hardest place and work backwards. Amazon taught me this. They said, Paul, you always start with the press release and work backwards. What do you want the deal to be? Let's work backwards. I love that. I learned a lot from that. So I started with the Commonwealth Games. Some of you might know the Commonwealth Games is His Majesty King Charles III is the boss of the Commonwealth. And it's about the most conservative organization on the planet. And so when the Commonwealth Games happened in Birmingham, England, a couple of years ago, we said, what about if we bought esports? And I was new to this. I'd come from the Olympic movement and had hung out with champions and great athletes and folks. And so I didn't know. And so it was really obvious to me. And I started with the end. And I said, it's going to be 50-50. It's going to be 50% women and 50% men. And everyone said, Paul, you can't do that, because the women aren't good enough and the men are leading this pack. And I said, but that's why we're doing it. And why do we have to wait 121 years, golf, to get to 50-50? Why don't we start there and then go out for a drink? So we started at 50-50, and I said the reason that the women are not excelling, in your definition of excelling, is because we didn't create space. We didn't create space. All the esports competition are men's competition. Where's the women? So we said, there's going to be FIFA online, and it's going to be women first and men second, and we're going to show it. And we did. And we had our first, in fact, the first champion was an Irish woman who ran away with the gold. But all of that to say that, and that's now history. You know, we created the Commonwealth Championships, and then we did it in Katowice in Poland with the European Games, and we did it in Santiago with the Pan American Games in Santiago, Chile, which was spectacular. And all of this to say, the secret lies in the silence, the ability for these young people to connect in a way, in a whole new way of connecting and socializing and building friends. And when we say you don't have any friends, believe me, they do. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of friends, and they're learning lots of great things. They're learning lots of great languages. They're making lots of great friends. And there's some bad things that we need to keep an eye on as well.
And that's how we come together to keep the human connection, even while they're on screen. And you know, when Dawn talked about they're all on their phones all the time. Yes, but that's what they were born into. I was the lucky generation where I got to play outside in the field. I got to play basketball. I got to run on the beach. And then I got introduced to technology, and I dealt with technology, learned technology, mastered technology, I thought, until AI comes along, and now it's a whole new game, and I have to start from scratch. But I am going to learn it. I am going to understand it. Because if I want to communicate with the next generation, and I want to communicate with my kids, I have to know what they're doing. And that is why it's so important for a collaboration like the Power of Words to work with the Esports Federation, the Global Esports Federation, to give the kids. So we say, leverage AI as an ally, but keep the human connection. And that is what we're trying to do. Thank you. And talking about the results and the journey, it's not about the result and it's not about where you end up. It's about the journey. It's how you get there. Coming to Tina, single parenting and resilience. And I know you have a daughter that's been incredibly successful. You've done such a great job with her. As a single parent, what have been the biggest challenges and how have you overcome them while balancing a demanding career as well and living in a new city and dealing with COVID?
Yes, well, I do. I have 4 absolutely amazing young adults. My youngest daughter, I always get them confused sometimes, but my youngest daughter has made some striving remarks. We just got accepted, actually, into graduate school for USC. So that's, she's a sports journalist. Sports has ran in our background forever. My oldest daughter was signed to Atlantic Records, and she's a country singer. My son is graduating this year from Azusa Pacific in criminal justice field, and my other daughter, my middle daughter, is in senior citizen care, and she has her own company where she manages, and it's really, so yes, managing all of that, managing all of that with, as well as trying to continue on with my career has been a little challenging, but I think that it's the resilience that is for me to show them. I think sometimes we don't understand that our children, they see us. People around us, they see us. Sometimes you don't have to say anything, and it may appear that they are not paying attention to you. They are. You don't have to say so much. They're paying attention to your actions. They're paying attention to what you're doing, and that means a lot. You know, I tend to sometimes, some people call it be a helicopter parent. I'm not really a helicopter parent, but I do like to be there to give guidance, and if they need me to have a shoulder to cry on, that's where I feel like the emotional intelligence come in as part of it, because, you know, I get vulnerable, you know, too. Sometimes I show my strength so they know how to actually handle that, and that's how I handled it in my real estate career, is to be able to show your strength, but also be vulnerable for them to see that it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And my motto is kind of like, Give yourself time. If you feel like you need a day, if you feel like you need a week, if you feel like you need 2 weeks, take that time. Let no one take that time if something's happened in your life and it appears to be a failure. I just feel like it's not a failure, it's like a setback for a setup. But if you need that time, you take that time for yourself, but just remember, give yourself a cutoff time. And once that's done, I'm actually from Texas as well. I always say, I pick up your boots, put your big girl boots on, and keep walking one step at a time. Because you'll get there one step at a time. Don't look so far into the future. It's there, plan your life out, but if you take it one step at a time and stay strong and be resilient, and everything will work out. My father used to always say, control what you can control, and what you can't control, just know that it's going to be okay, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. I love that. Statistics have shown that post-COVID, the highest rate of depression, anxiety, loneliness, mental health is between the ages of 19 and about, I want to say 32 to 34. And often what we're saying is don't sweat the small stuff. A lot of young adults and a lot of kids are struggling. Teenagers are struggling. And sometimes we tend to push them, to pull them out of the situation. And it is a way to work around it is to be able to give them time, to be there for them, to listen to them, because they're not being heard, they're being told. And I don't think it's a time for us to tell them, it's a time for us to listen to them.
Yes.
I think I'm going to jump straight into emotional intelligence with Samira, because we have so much alignment there. And how this contributes to personal development and leads to success. And that has been your path, and you've leveraged that so beautifully. Emotional intelligence is often overlooked in finance. And do you see the need to consciously work on one's emotional intelligence? How has it played a role in your ability to lead, negotiate, and build long-term success in an industry that is so data-driven? How do you balance logic with intuition when making these huge financial decisions?
Thank you. So I'll start with saying, don't sweat the small stuff. And each of us is on this planet for a reason. I fundamentally, firmly believe that. I believe that we are downloaded, we come here to Earth School, and each of us has this bright little light inside of us. And our jobs are to understand what is that light and allow it to shine as brightly as possible. And I accidentally learned all of this when I was building the private investor group. We had been doing casual dinners, and then the pandemic started, and I put it on Zoom March 23rd, 2020. And at the end of it, I said, do you all want to do this once a month or once a quarter? And they said, every week, Samira. At this point, I had some of the most iconic leaders in finance, men who had built Wall Street, women who had disrupted industries, and they're asking to be on a Zoom with me every week. Me, Samira Salman, whose father came to this country on a boat from Lebanon, who went to LSU, no fancy schools, and who has never worked in a fancy bank or anything. And at that point, my sweet father was dying from stage 4 cancer, and I hadn't had my hair or nails done in a while. And for those of you that know, I'm Lebanese. I came out of the womb with a manicure. So I put this thing on Zoom every week, and I only had the ability to be authentic and real at that point. There was too much other stuff going on. And that's when I learned the most valuable lesson of all. Every single one of us, no matter who we are, what we've done, what are our accomplishments, where we come from, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be understood, period. And at that point, That's all we did, was we listened to each other. I created an environment where we could allow everyone to speak. Those that didn't speak, I encouraged them to speak up. And, we were showing up with the 2 inches of gray hair, and the guys would come with just beards, and we were real humans. And that's why, for me, the pandemic was such a gift, because it allowed us to understand that humans are humans. And you can put all kinds of stuff around it and put us in places. We are still humans. We still have those bright lights. And the most beautiful thing we can do is be present and authentic with each other, regardless of what the circumstances are.
It's beautiful. When you're talking to, we often feel small, or I do at least when I'm talking, and lately I've been talking to lots of groups of lots of men, and either from science or academics. And with what you're doing, Samira, you're handling millions of dollars, and what people must see from you is leadership, trust, and safety. And those are the things that are so important for us to teach and ingrain in every human being, but more so in every woman. So thank you for that. Dawn, going back to you, breaking the stigma around mental health in schools or at home is not just the responsibility of teachers and parents, it's a societal responsibility. I believe anything we need to do and to change has to come from society. We have to communicate the same way, which is why I do, and we can go into talking about the power of words, but I don't think we have enough time today. But do you believe that there's a growing need to educate leadership, the faculty, parents, and students about emotional intelligence and mental well-being to remove the stigma, but to also create that communication? Because you can do everything you want in school, but what next?
Yes, on all fronts. And I think it's bigger than that. It has to go beyond. And what I talked about earlier is redefining the success and who is setting these standards of success for the educational world. And I could talk for hours about this, but the educational world is a hierarchy that the leaders in this room have to question at this point. We look at College Board and standardized testing, and who are they standardized testing at this point? What is it for? Why is it needed? It has to be bigger. The emotional intelligence piece has to be bigger than our community. It has to start at a higher level, because the standardized test doesn't measure emotional intelligence, which is required to do jobs now. The requirement in the job force, I always push my faculty to teach for the jobs that are unknown, right? And the importance of that is this emotional intelligence portion of it, because what is being lost, and the great thing about esports that I love is it's a great equalizer in a lot of ways. But what is missing, the connection between esports is this sense of collaboration, which you're seeing. But how do we teach that sense of collaboration when technology is being used in a negative way instead of a positive way? And so that is what we need to push societal norms towards, is how do we teach collaboration? How do we measure collaboration? How do we measure and give effort or grades for effort and mastery versus grades for passing the class? And that is a big difference, because a student might be a wonderful test taker but still not be able to understand the concept learned. And on the flip side, a student might not be a great test taker but could teach the class. So what are we rewarding that student for? And so it's going to be a major shift in education, which it's coming. You're seeing a lot of LA schools right now questioning College Board, questioning ACT, moving away from that system to teach emotional intelligence or to grade for emotional intelligence.
And also, the way we teach emotional intelligence is we want to teach it, or there's a necessity to teach it to the kids. There's a necessity to teach it to faculty, to leadership. But there is also necessity for parents to understand that. And that's why the program we have is global, but it's also for every age.
And with the bands, it's a nonverbal So when it's an unspoken word from a parent to a child. When, I talk to parents a lot, and the best thing is having your kid in a car because they don't have to look at you when they talk. They don't want to look at you. They just want to tell you everything and not see the judgment on your face, and you just keep driving, hopefully not crashing, as they're just telling you these wild stories or whatever it may be. But the point is, the bands are a signal, a nonverbal signal to the adult in the room of how they're doing without having to put the student on the spot or their daughter on the spot. It's huge. It's a game changer. It's now normalizing the norm.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because what also happens, and the way I look at it and the way we developed it, is that the parent driving the child is doing it in her corporate environment, in her social environment. The child is practicing it in their environment completely separately, but the communication and the understanding, it's unspoken communication. You can understand what anyone, anywhere is expressing. And, a lot of the time, we say lead by example, and if they see you practicing, then they feel encouraged to be able to go down that path and feel like it's okay to say how they're feeling. And we're not having enough of these conversations at the dinner table.
Yes, role modeling is key in emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And thank you for the support and, for being here. It's so important. Emotional intelligence and leadership for Paul. As a leader of the global the leader of a global organization, how does emotional intelligence help you navigate partnerships, negotiations, and industry growth? And has the Power of Words Ban Bond initiative helped you in any way? And I ask you that because I know you've been a part of it for a while now. Let's talk about that before we go into gaming and its competitiveness.
Yeah, I think we're very proud, and congratulations to you, Deborah, and the Power of Words and what you've created. It's I'm wearing my bands, and I choose different bands. I kind of like blue, I think, so I often get to blue. I start with color, and then I think about it, and I think you don't mind me doing that.
It has to be the other way around, but I will accept it as long as you have the purpose.
I'm a basic Australian. Let me do it my way. Let me choose my color first, and I'll get there in the end. I'll get there.
That goes into the gaming.
I'm doing my Amazon backwards thing.
As long as you get the job done, yes.
That's right. I was recently negotiating with a partner, a global partner, and I can say who it is. It's one of the Olympic Committee's global sponsors, Deloitte. Deloitte, an incredible consulting firm and financial services firm. And I started by asking them a question, and they said in their whole history of Deloitte's a huge firm. Samira might know the size of it, but it's hundreds of thousands of people work at Deloitte. And I asked the question, I said, what do you need? How can I help you, Deloitte? All these really bright, scholarly consultants froze, and the chief said to me, Paul, in all my history, I've never been asked that. The deal, it's public information, the deal's about a $400 million deal to be an Olympic sponsor, right? And so they'd never been asked, how can we help you? So I said to them, how can we help you? I have a perception of Deloitte. My perception is that they're an audit firm. That was my perception. They do audit. And I see a building with Deloitte on it, with a new green dot. I think they've changed their brand recently. And they said, we've never been asked. And the good thing is they were able to tell me what they wanted. No one had asked. And that what they wanted to do is move from audit to technology. Think about that for a second. How do you move a 100-year-old organization from being Deloitte, the trusted auditors, and move them to a tech firm? And they just won the contract with the International Olympic Committee to be the technology partner for the International Olympic Committee. They did it. And we did it by asking, how can we help?
Yeah. That's the unspoken communication that you kind of figured out on your own, what they were thinking.
Yeah, I think it's great to be human, right? It's great. My mum's a psychologist. I don't know if I'd ever choose to have a mother as a psychologist, but I've got one, and she's remarkable. She's that way. She's still at, God bless her, she still calls me every afternoon. I'll get it on the way home to Orange County. And she calls me and she says, how are you? And then we talk and she hangs up and she calls me back and says, now, how are you?
For real.
Mums never forget.
Going back to Paul, mental health in gaming and esports is becoming a crucial conversation. I know that you have taken the lead to consciously change that narrative. How is the Global Esports Federation addressing well-being and resilience among gamers?
We have a series of commissions and councils, consulting groups, and one of our most prominent ones is called Health and Wellness Commission, and it's chaired by a remarkable woman, Dr. Melita Moore, who's out of DC. Our organization's global, right? We work across 180 countries, and so issues, in every part of the world are different. And so we thought about health and well-being and wellness in 4 realms, focusing in gaming really on eyes and ears, but also mental health, physical health, movement, encouraging young people to move at least 30 minutes a day, which was inspired by our partnership with UNESCO and their Fit for Life program that just asked kids and young people and all of us to move 30 minutes a day, right? That was a goal we thought we could do. And also societal health. So Deborah, we put it right into our organization. Health and well-being, we put it right into the center of our organization. And every single conversation, every single meeting and every single gathering has, you wouldn't go to an esports competition with our organization and not have a health and well-being aspect that talks about mental health and emotional intelligence, supported by the power of words and what we do.
Thank you, and thank you for that partnership, and I'm sure together we will make this change we're all talking about. I'm getting the eyes that I have to wrap up, but I'm going to give a last question to both Samira and Tina. What has been the most rewarding part of building your business, and what advice would you give to women to start their own financial firms, or for you in real estate, Tina?
Well, for me in real estate, the most rewarding thing is, I think, the relationships and understanding. That's where the emotional intelligence come in again. Understanding your client, understanding their needs and their wants. And I think for me, the most rewarding part is to listen, but not only, to hear them, but not only hear them, but to listen. That's 2 separate things, and people sometimes misunderstand that. I can hear you all day long, but when you're really listening, then I've tuned into exactly how you feel and what you really want. And at the end of my real estate transactions, whether it be here in the United States, I've even listed a property in Dubai, with the gentleman, whether it be from here or overseas, is to understand them and to see them at the end of the day smile, and they actually are satisfied and happy. This is one of the most, I don't even know what to say, one of the most challenging decisions sometimes that some of us will ever make in an investment, as an investment standpoint. So I think my clients being happy, and for them to understand, and me seeing them happy and knowing that I've done that, I think that's what makes the difference for me. And if I had to leave anything with any woman in here, or any man, anybody, is to always just remember that nothing is new under the sun. And that's the last thing I'm going to say that my father told me. It's absolutely the truth. The game doesn't change. The players do. If you ever want to know what is going on in life with you, someone else, or the world, go back. Go back into time. Go back into history. It is going to tell you. It's going to tell you, and that will give you your answer, and you take it and you use it to your own advantage.
That was awesome. So I'll say the most rewarding thing for me is when I know that something I have done, an event I created, an investment I made, a speech I gave, touched somebody else's life, even if it's one life, and I get off a stage and somebody said, "You inspired me to do this," or "I learned from that." I love waking up every day knowing that I can change somebody's life and help humanity grow. And I think the one thing that I wish somebody would have told me, and we've harped on this a couple of times today in the different panels, I wish somebody would have told me years ago that what anybody else thinks does not matter. Let's say that again. What anybody else thinks does not matter. We each have our own beautiful light and purpose for being here. And when I started pasting Rob Report and De Beers on my vision board and said, I want to host global events with them. And I would tell my friends, I'm going to do something with Rob Report and De Beers. And sure enough, not only did I, but it's literally transformed the way that we're doing some of our gatherings in the industry. I wish I would have owned my power and my light sooner and earlier. And I wish I would have understood fundamentally every human wants to be seen, heard, and understood. That's why these bands are so incredible. It's a very different way of asking somebody, how are they feeling? What do they need? We all communicate differently. And unless you've had massive personal and professional development training, you don't know that. So this is a different way. Instead of asking somebody, how are you? They can just look and see. So I think that's one thing we can all take away is understanding that people communicate their needs in different ways, and it's up to us to be intelligent enough emotionally to try and understand what does that fellow human need from us. Look people in the eyes and sincerely listen without an agenda. It will transform your life.
Thank you for that so much, Samira. Two things to end that, two things to close it. You are exactly where you're meant to be at this moment in time. You're all meant to be in this room right here. You're in these chairs with us having this conversation. So I would say to all of you, make it a point to find your magic. We all come into this world with our magic inside of us, and our talent is not our magic. Our talent is just the path to leading you to find your magic. So I'd love to say, please find your magic.